Chair, present, fellow speakers and guests. Evaluating an A1 which focuses on vocabulary of word pictures. However, because it's an advanced level, it also requires that it covers all the previous areas, such as construction and eye contact. Use of voice. This speaker has used some different gestures, which is in the previous level, with something like shivering in the car, or the house shook, which was very well demonstrated. There was some use of voice with the singing, or a real adventure, but generally the use of voice was a little lacking and somewhat monotone. The importance of pauses is also in the use of voice. It's also important immediately after a salutation, and this speaker didn't really pause and went straight into the speech. This leaves a problem that the opening of the speech then maybe is not quite arresting enough, and you're straight into the story. The level 2 or 3, 2 I think, is the construction of the speech, and that leads on from having an arresting opening, having a clear construction, and having a clear ending. This speaker started, as I said, straight into the speech, and the construction was a little bit muddled. I found myself thinking, the story is about the house, but I don't know how I got from this house, because the description was about what was happening in the car on the journey. And then suddenly there was something about Cavendish Square, and I didn't know if it was the London Cavendish Square or the Swindon Cavendish Square. And then suddenly it was back into the car. So from my perspective, there were some issues with the construction. And the ending of the speech, although clearly ended with, yes, Swindon, but then went on to say thank you. And we don't say thank you after the speech.
That was probably, I've done it for a long time, have it, I got back into the story.
There was some use of vocabulary in terms of cleaning and polish, but I would have really liked to have seen maybe some allegories with some of the descriptions in there. It felt a bit too narrative to be seen like a construction, and it would have been brilliant as an F1 understanding, wow, this is the story, this is what this person has gone through, but lacking in terms of construction for a more advanced speech. There was also an issue around correcting some of the vocabulary, and that detracts from the speech, such as, well, there wasn't any heating, and then I didn't think there was, and if there was, then it wasn't actually working. So you lose the flow of the speech, and that's really important in this context when you're wanting to enthrall the audience with something that's captivating, with some really fancy vocabulary, actually apologising for something or not being so sure. Because the speech was rather quick, it also meant that this speaker tripped up on some of the words. So some of my recommendations are to actually learn to use the pauses for powerful effect. Learning to really search for some words that are very descriptive in just one or two words, rather than having to explain so much. Continue using the gestures. That was great. Some of the eye contact. I find some keywords so that there's not so much reading from the notes. So my recommendation is that this speaker redoes the speech, taking in consideration those points, and maybe re-evaluating some of the earlier points about construction of speech.